I'm at the farm. It's my day off. It's really windy. It stormed all night. It was awesome. Because I was awake for all of it. Um, but I'm about to harvest some greens to go home and cook. Sorry, that was really close to my face. Um, I just did probably my last harvest of this year for aster flowers, which is great because I'm still getting over like a sinus bronchial infection from a head cold like 3 weeks ago. Uh, Aster flowers have a lot of antifungal, antimicrobial, all that stuff. Um, and it's good for your bronchioles and airways and stuff. Um, I found that out when I was already sick for a week and a half or 2 weeks. And then I was like, by the way, what's goldenrod and aster used for medicinally? And it was like, I just looked at a list of the symptoms that I was currently having. And I was like, oh. So I have some aster tea steeping at home for when I get back. But what I wanted to talk about was I did streams last night, and it probably been a couple months, and it was a hard trip. It was not all rolling and bathing in foamy waves of self-love as it has been at times before. Equally important, equally valuable. It was definitely a challenging experience, but I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about, I don't know, having something kind of like touch my nervous system so directly, and for me to still be able to discern, like, am I okay? Am I sick? Or am I just on a bad trip? But there was still a lot of good. There are two things that I wanted to talk about that were thoughts that I was led to last night while the storm was coming in, while I was laying down in bed. And the first one was it's like everything stopped suddenly, and I was suddenly met with this question of, I don't know, I receive like thoughts and visions and dreams and stuff like that in a very like non-verbal way. I always have, and I sometimes have a hard time translating because it feels like translation. Translating my the things that I experience, that I understand, because I can easily have full like processed thoughts that don't involve language, because it's all process and response and change and movement and direction, and anyway. But I was led to this thought of, like, there was, like, why is it that you, because it's a very direct question, it completely stopped me, and it was something like, why do you believe that there is something out there that wants to kill you? Yeah, and I saw it as if it were at the very, scraping the bottom of the container that is me or my psyche in this life. And it was like at the very bottom, things tucked underneath something, curled at a weird angle, where it was this like black point. And like everything else was like, cream and soft colors and soft movement. And there was just like this hard line and hard point that was just ink black. And and it was hard to face. I definitely was met with a lot of like shadow work kind of items last night in my experience. But there was this point, and I realized that, like, that's, and it told me too, it's like, this is something that you carry with you every day. It colors how you feel about showing up in the world. It colors your sense of safety. It colors your inhibitions. And and I realized part of it was some tangible fears that I have, like, here now in this life, at this age, at this time. And I realized that those are forcefully emphasized by propaganda that's going on in my country at the time. In my country for all of its life, I guess. But like that fear of being robbed of agency under oppression in like a more complete way than I've experienced in my adulthood. You know, I'm very afraid of that. And I know that fear is something that I need to work on. But also, you know, there was the question of like, when was this put there? And it's kind of come back to really early memories of my mom when I was like a toddler, and just the way she would get angry, the way she would hit me. And it was this kind of like spiritual and psychological shock of, you would only be doing this if you were trying to kill me, and why are you trying to kill me? That's the opposite of what I thought we were doing here. And I've realized that there's been echoes of that in my life that I've struggled with a lot. And I was picking Astros just now, and, you know, thinking about it, and like just hearing myself calmly think through factual memory stuff of, well, you know, my mom like did hit me a lot when I was a small child, and she stopped hitting me when I was around 9 or 10, and I always felt like I was seeing her realize, like, oh, I'm getting old enough that like I could say something. And she kept me very sheltered away from neighbors, away from any kind of social life. She was very antisocial. She didn't have any friends. That has absolutely made it more challenging for me as an adult to understand how to keep friends, because I never saw it. But she quit hitting me when I got older, and but like I think that's obviously always been there. It's a big old beet leaf. I'm sure there's no buggies on the other side. So the other thought that I was led to last night was I had a thought yesterday, I think while I was at work, I think it was yesterday, sometime this last weekend, um, that I kept, it's starting to get cold, and I work in a bar, and so there's lots of beer and sugary stuff, and so I've rescued a lot of bugs. I've rescued a lot of bugs on the farm, I've rescued a lot of bugs at work, and I realized that, like, my sense of awareness, I think that's my favorite thistle coming up right there. Fuck yeah. I realized that, you know, part. I realized that my experience of my actions don't include the warmth and safety that others feel because of me responding in a way that is natural to me. Um, and that, like, became a clear thought one of the times that I was, moving a dying fly uh, away from the beer puddle at work and onto something more dry so it wouldn't drown. And realizing, like, what's it like for them just getting carried to somewhere safe. But so the other thought was I just started seeing, because I was reading something about how, every individual has its gifts to bring, and that the work of humans are to learn the gifts that they have to offer and learn how to give them in this world. And I think, in a way, I didn't have any sense of, like, innate, these are the gifts that I am. I didn't have any of that. And so part of last night was kind of showing me, like, this is how you view people because of your background, because neurodivergence and different things. But then this is what people get to experience because you see them in that way and because you respond to what you're seeing and treat them like that. And they get to experience being treated as the kind of person that they want to be seen as. And I realized that that's something that I do. And there were a couple other things that were super nuanced, but super, like, this is you. And I've been walking through more thoughts of, like, no, let yourself blossom. This is the shape of your flower, Anyway, more later. Just wanted to share that. Take care.